developing musicianship online.
Hello and welcome back to DM Online. Today we're going to have a look at tempo or speed and the kinds of things that GarageBand does that you should be aware of when it comes to dealing with tempo. So GarageBand is capable of things like ritardando or slowing down and accelerando or speeding up. But it has an impact differently on things that are MIDI based as opposed to things that are audio recorded. So if you're planning to do tempo changes and do audio recording, such as microphones or instruments, it's really important to actually establish what the tempo is going to be before you start recording, because afterwards you can't change it without actually affecting the sound of your waves. And I will spend today just demonstrating exactly what I mean. So let's get into it. So here we are back in the project that we completed last session. And as you can see, we have a mixture of audio that has been live recorded and audio that's coming out of a MIDI based program. So Kyle the drummer, or the automatic drummer, is in fact a MIDI computer generated piece of writing. So if we were to actually take this out of here, we can take it into other programs as a MIDI file and manipulate it. But in this program, Kyle the drummer is as he is. You don't get to really dig deep into what notation sits underneath this automation. Okay, so then the bass and the vocals are like live recordings, and the organ is MIDI. You can tell because of the colorations. And if you can remember back to the previous session, I did audio record this last drum hit. Now the tempo is set at 120 beats per minute. And if we listen to the opening, I'll just play the first few bars up to where the bass comes in there.
DM, developing musicianship online.
So what would happen if we suddenly decided that it was going too slow? If I'd written this all in MIDI, I might go up to 150 beats per minute and have another listen. But let's find out what happens when we do that.
DM, developing musicianship online.
And as you can hear, the pitch has gone fairly strange. The computer program actually tries to maintain pitch when you speed it up on a live recording. So it's actually adding a pitch adjustment to try to keep it actually in the key it was written in. Unfortunately, it has a substantial effect on tone quality, and with something faster like this bass part, it just can't keep up. So you end up with this cross tone thing where you're almost hearing two different notes playing at once. It's not very pretty. So things that are slightly slower like that, singing, it wasn't as noticeable, but the bass part definitely is noticeable. So what do we do about it? Well, fortunately, I've been busy creating a MIDI version of that bass part. So let's change over to the MIDI version and see what happens. So now we're in a new environment where the bass part has been written as a MIDI file instead of as an actual played file. Disadvantages, you just don't get the human sound in the way the instrument articulates. It's very mechanical, but we now do have a lot more flexibility in tempo. So I'm going to play the same piece of music up to 150 like we did before. And let's have a listen and see what it sounds like.
DM, developing musicianship online.
Okay, and that has the bass sound intact. It is definitely more mechanical, but it is maintaining its integrity as a sound quality and not splitting like it was in the pitch change before. The vocals seem to be quite fine with the alteration. Let's try and drive it a little bit harder and see if it really starts breaking up at higher speeds. Here we go.
DM, developing musicianship online.
Seems to be fine, doesn't really affect the vocals too much. And the other point where it's worth testing is the conclusion where those two drum hits are, because that is waveform. It may have an impact on the sound. So let's find out.
DM, developing musicianship online.
So that seems to work as well. And how about accelerandos and ritardandos? Let's have a play around with this and see what sort of effect it is. So in order to get a relatando or an accelerando, you need to go up to the track in the menu where you'll find a thing that says show tempo track. If you show the tempo track, it will come up like a timeline at the top. This timeline can have markers put on it, so to put a marker on it, you hold Option and then you click, and that will add a marker. Now, that's currently going at 200, but for this, I think it'd be really good to ramp it up from the original speed, so it'll go down to 120 prior to this. So see, I can just grab the line and drag it, and as I drag it, the speed is slowing down. And there's my original 120. Now you'll see this circle in the bend where the speed changes from 200 to 120. This is a bendable circle, so anything that's a hollow circle can be bent. In other words, if I click on this top one, you'll see it just drags the whole thing. It's non-bendable. The one on the bottom is bendable. So I could say I want it to be 200 by the time I get to the chant, to the vocals, but I want it to progressively get to that speed from here. Now you'll see it just bent the whole line. To control, just put another marker in. Now I'm just bending the last section. I could progressively make the whole piece get just faster, or I can change it so it just curves up at the end. So I'll just pick up like the last couple of bars into that, and you'll hear the effect.
DM, developing musicianship online.
If we had to bend the curve the other way, it's going to ramp up much faster.
DM, developing musicianship online.
The same applies to slowing down or ritardando. So let's say, for example, I wanted my beginning to be fast, up to 120, and then I'm going to slow it down after that. So I put my two markers in by holding Option and clicking on the line. I lift this up to 200, and then you'll see the bend has been positioned where it changes tempo. So I can do a similar bend. Now at this point, it's going to slow down during the vocals. It's perhaps not exactly what I'm going for, but we'll try it out and we'll see what it sounds like.
DM, developing musicianship online.
And if I had to put the rit in before then, I'll just put it so that it slows into the verbal.
DM, developing musicianship online.
So that covers the creative possibilities for tempo. We can have extreme changes, we can move things up and down, but we do have to be conscious of whether we want to use MIDI or live recording, because live recording will have an implication on how much flexibility you have with your tempo. Have fun playing around with tempo in your own projects, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.
DM Developing Musicianship Online.